Man, so okay, big birthday coming up. We were just talking about it, and then we decided to hit the button. And yeah, where are you at, man? Where are you at?
It's such a big birthday that I feel like it's been coming for 2 years, and I feel like the birthday will mark the point when I can stop dreading it. Like I've been telling people, people ask me how old I am. It's a depressing question. I don't know why. I mean, I guess I know why. It's
it's the
there's
golden.
reasons why
It's the golden
moving
age.
to.
The go-
Yeah,
the
I don't
gold.
think anybody has said that.
It's the
And I
golden
don't
age
think
of rock.
anybody would. I think I'm moving into an age where um it's just not good news as an artist
You know,
who
I
has not made a name for himself yet.
I feel like you could take it one way or another. I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna get you. Which is like, you could slump your way into decade five
Yeah,
and be ashamed of it, or you could just be like,
it's
I'm a
decade
dude.
six. It's
Yeah,
decade six,
I play decade six. Okay, okay, yeah, that's true.
isn't
Let's call it five. But yes, uh,
it? You're not really active in your first 10 years.
or you could just be like, yeah, I'm a dude. I got this. I got a family. I play rock and roll. I've
Yeah,
still got
nothing to
my
be ashamed of.
dreams. I've still got my dreams at hand. I sort of
Plenty
feel
of
like
good and vigor to with which to move things forward.
Vim the Vigor. Yeah, I mean, I think I could totally see you as someone who's like an inspiring 5-0, where you're just like, all right, this dude,
Oh yeah,
yeah, he's living it the way I wanna live it in terms of life,
yeah,
And it's not. I think the jig is up as far as people thinking that we're in our 20s, so might as well just sort of embrace where we're at.
yeah, yeah. Totally.
I've
Yeah, no,
decided.
it's fine. Yeah, it's one of these things that it just creeps up and there it is, and you spend a lot of time being like, I don't care, but this doesn't bother me. This doesn't mean anything. What could it mean? What
Yeah,
could it? We could just name some things, but let's not.
yeah.
But
Does it
no,
make
but
it harder for you to like imagine going to play shows or anything, or does it just it's kind of the
no,
same, right?
no, not to play shows and things, but there is, I think, the perpetual thing with being an older person who does stuff, who does artistic stuff, is that there does sort of there's a sort of faint uh, stinky cloud in the room, in new rooms with new people, that sort of like lingers and goes around, and it's the people who sort of like who think that older people shouldn't be art
I see.
because it's silly. It's like
I see.
there's a
You
sort of like
shouldn't.
a who do you think you are kind of. It's not that it's not that really my goal is to be a huge sensation. That's not what it's all
Although,
about.
if it
But
were to happen,
I'm not gonna say no. Well, no, I might. No, no, no. I think actually, I think that there are a lot of reasons to avoid a certain
it's
size,
funny, man.
which is
I'm
pretty.
laughing because I've done so much thinking
You
about how
laugh.
I don't want to get too.
Okay.
I've put so much work into it, and this has been for decades. And so back even in my
Yeah.
20s, my friends were like, "I don't think you have to
Yeah.
worry quite as much about
Yeah.
about
Exactly.
getting
Well, but
super
that's what I
famous."
hate. That's exactly the thing. People are just so ready to be like, "Oh, don't worry, buddy. You don't have to." And yeah, me too. I spent some time being like, "Okay, this is how you can
Yeah,
ride the level of sort of like, you want an appreciative audience. You want to find a bunch of people who get what you do
yeah,
and appreciate it, and you want to do work at a really high level. You want it to be you want to do stuff
yeah,
that's really great. Yeah, and you want to find an audience, but and I think that if certain sort of like all of a sudden there were some sort of like way to I- you know the world is not the same as it used to be, so you never
right,
know. Like there's all kinds of new ways to be a flash in the pan, and I think that it should be guarded against.
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
it's not that it should be guarded against. You should have an idea of how you want to handle that, and I think that there would be temptations to to be stupid about it,
Right.
and there's ways to be smarter about it. And yeah,
I
I
just
have
want to
thought
say
about it.
before
And
before we get too far away from this, I just want to say that a faint stinky cloud in the room is too evocative of an image that you shouldn't use because it's one that you can't really get out of your mind after that. So if you suggest to people that there may be a faint stinky cloud following you, I think
in the room,
it'll
yeah,
be hard.
pretty
for them
soon
to shed.
everyone's gonna find a reason to leave.
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna just be like, "This is great. I don't know why, but I don't feel comfortable here."
But also, if you think about musicians in their 50s and even in their 60s who've been just doing it for a while, I don't even really know Emmylou Harris, but that name popped in my head, or like these sort of like this sort of generation. You don't think of like, oh, those people are too old and they shouldn't be. You
Yeah.
think, oh, they've got
Oh, not at all.
gravitas, they've got like
Because
longevity.
because they've already been let into the sacred stadium already.
yeah,
That's different.
yeah, but it's possible that the all of the negativity we imagine is just imagined, right? I mean, it would be different. It's like the classic thing of
Yeah.
the old guy in the club. If you were out there trying to do stuff that really shouldn't be done, wearing the latest fashions and trying to look like you're 25, then it probably would be ungraceful. But you don't. You embody yourself at your age and stage, and it works, and it. So I don't think anyone would actually be looking at that being like, oh, how untoward. But that's obviously those are the voices that we're always trying to battle in our own heads, imagining that everybody else is saying about us.
Yeah, it is a relief of YouTube and social media and stuff. You start to see you get involved in groups of people with similar interests, and I see plenty of people who are like me, who have just gorgeous studios, and you don't know who the hell they are.
Yeah.
People who justify, because I think that's part of the big question. Is are you justified in spending a bunch of money on that next synthesizer? Like, is there any sort of logical framework where this is a decent expense? And I think that's where a lot of it comes from. Like, if you're just sort of like throwing stuff off or whatever, then who cares? But if you're actually investing in building a studio, I think that becomes that.
In my mind, it seems like anyone
what
can
are you
build a
doing?
studio or collect things. It's like, you're collecting old bottle caps or whatever it is. It's just your thing.
Yeah.
So spend whatever money you want in your own basement. There's a different level of trying to put yourself out there into the world to perform for others. That seems much more high risk than purchasing equipment and nerding out in the privacy of your own life.
It's so funny. I guess it might just be all in our heads because of the fact that I don't think that going out and doing shows, just because I do it, the mystique, like, there's no illusion that there's no implicit ambition in putting on a show.
Well,
There's no
actually,
implicit ambition in like releasing a record on Spotify. I think maybe at some point, if I hadn't done it, then maybe I would think, oh my God, who are they going to think that I think I am?
So
But
whatever
now
you
that
haven't done,
I've done that, it's because as soon as you do it, you realize lots of people are doing it.
right?
At,
That was
at,
fine.
at every age,
Yeah.
and you see all kinds of people doing it, and
Yeah.
you ultimately judge the quality. You're just
Yeah.
like, well, do I like it or not?
There is a very powerful sort of sense of who do I think I am, or maybe it's an imagined voice of others saying, who do you think you are, to put yourself in the middle of this project, or to do a TV
Right.
pilot, or to play music on and put music
How dare you?
Yeah, it's just like, why you? But no one's actually really asking that. But if when people ask me, like, so are you the host? Then I'm like, I feel the need to apologize for it. Whereas they're just asking, I think, very...
Yeah,
just
but
like,
I'm the host, but I mean, let me explain.
Exactly. Well, I mean, there was no one else available.
I did. There's no one else available.
I tried. Anyone would have tried to find
called
someone
everyone.
else. Yeah.
No one else. Was willing to work for the rate.
Sorry. Oh God.
Let me explain.
Yeah. But I don't. I think
That's
other people
funny.
are just asking, just sort of like, it's very, is it up or is it down? They're just
Well, has it changed for you now? I mean, so I'm watching these Jeremiah
yeah,
clips
right.
and sort of thinking about um, building a show and stuff.
Please tell me how to do
And
it.
well, one thing occurred to me. I was well, first of
Sorry, you
all,
were asking me something. Yeah.
well, I was going to ask you, like, now you are directing a show. You're walking around with a sound guy and a guy with a boom mic, and asking people questions. Is
Yeah.
any of the
Imposterness.
who do you think you are?
Yeah.
Is that faded at all?
Um, a little bit. I wouldn't say it's faded. It sort of like went down a chunk and it's still there, but at a lower level. But I think I definitely had it, and even as we were doing it, I definitely had it, and I was like, oh, I hope no one knows that I don't actually deserve this. And then just, I guess, enough seeing just a little bit of footage and seeing it work at some level, I'm like, oh, okay. I guess who do I think I am? It's just like, I don't know. I just threw myself in the ring, and it's kind of working. But but it's still there. It just went down from like maximum level.
Why is it?
medium.
Oh, I mean, like, where does it come from? Do you fully understand? Do you grasp?
Well, it's like-
Sorry, actually, just notice something while you were talking. Is it possible that your mic is not connected? I think I'm
looks
listening to the microphone on your computer.
Ah!
I was like, hearing the room, it sounds like it's this weird.
I could hear myself. Is that better?
That sounds much better.
What a shame that all of that wonderful conversation was with terrible audio.
It's okay. I have the terrible video for now, and for just a couple more weeks, and then I'm gonna have good video.
Yeah.
You wait and see, world.
Well deduced. Sorry for my lack of engineering. I got to fire my engineer.
Yeah, that's what you need some explain. So you're the engineer for this,
Right?
Yeah, but
There was no. Oh man, wouldn't that be amazing to have your own engineer? I'm trying to set up interviews in this very space where we are now, and this is a new camera angle, which would be the camera angle on me, and I'd be talking to someone right there, actually in this space.
Okay.
And I'm realizing how much work it will be to engineer it at the same time. Just like extra brain cycles that instead of being locked into the conversation are going to be like, am I still centered? Is that person still centered? Is the sound still coming in? And so that's going to be a big slice of the brain early on, and hopefully it can get less. It actually made me remember listening to some WTFs where he was always in his own sort of internal panic about the engineering, like he's gonna get to the end of the whole conversation and the thing wouldn't have recorded, and because I think anytime you're the host.
So Mark Maron was doing the whole thing by himself.
I guess there were sometimes he was traveling. That's what it was. He was on the road and he had his laptop and he had a mic and headphones or whatever, and he'd set it up, but there's no one else there to make sure it's going okay, and so it was causing a lot of internal panic. Anyway, I can relate to that said internal panic, and I can't remember why I started talking about that.
Well, it reminds me of something that as I was struggling with because there's the phone app that was supposed to give me a better picture, and I couldn't get it to work, and I'm so familiar with the cycle of getting things to work when they don't work,
right? And
then you go through all this suffering, and then you finally set it up, and then it's like I'm remembering like talking to people about their own setups, and they're like, well, what is the thing? And they're impatient. They're just like, I just forget it. I'm just not going to do it. And which is where I ended today with the whole camera thing. But when you're on the other side of that line, when you've done all the work, and it's hard to have sympathy for people who are just sort of just like throwing in the towel because it's that instinct, I think, that I get sometimes, which is just like, look, what I'm bringing on this side of the camera is more important. Like, there's a million engineers in the world. That's just actually not a valid position anymore so much.
Well, it probably is if you're at a certain level where you actually have all those.
Well, that's
people,
the whole thing. Like, if you somehow put yourself in the running to like win one of these to be picked. If you've been picked,
Mm.
then they've figured that all out. If you
Yeah.
So it's like somebody with the money, they pick the talent, they hire the engineers who suffered through all the things. And if you are a talented person who is behind the camera or doing some engineering work, and you're thinking, well, shit, I guess I'm not one of the special ones. I wasn't picked
Yeah.
to be the talent, but I suffered through and learned how to engineer all this crap. And
Right.
now I have to be sitting here listening to this talentless hack be a fucking, and bitter and, whatever about it. I've
Yeah.
got no personal experience with this. I'm just imagining.
That's how I imagine it would go. Well, I think I've told you about how my family and I are enjoying watching The Voice, the current season of The Voice. And I think about this because these are people who are very talented singers and they come on, but like all they, and this is probably not true, but from what it appears is that all they have to do is show up and be able to sing. And they don't even have to be able to sing amazingly because they're probably getting coached as the season goes on. So as the season goes on, these people go from like nobodies who sort of, apologetically appear on stage, or maybe they just grab it and really own it, but like they're still nobodies. And over the course of the season, they become stars with actual legions of fans and social media followings and whatever. And
Wow.
you also, as the pool gets smaller, then you also see more individual attention being paid to each one. So you see them turning into stars. I don't know if it's just because they're like makeup and their outfits or whatever, but these sort of people
They just
who
sort of
were
start
really
believing it.
Yeah, they start believing it. They start acting like it. And they start looking like it. So these people in, week 10 or whatever, then in week 1, were just some nobody that wandered up there. They just look Hollywood and slick, and they own it, and they're like waving to their fans and they're talking. It's really interesting to see. And it's sort of the ultimate of what you're talking about being picked. It's like you show up with your talent and this like super fancy, super high budget show is just going to take care of the rest.
Well, but there's, I think, to abstract from that, it shows the power of validation, of what that can do to a person. Just like somebody, and especially if you believe in that validation, it's probably pretty easy to believe in such a superstructure with all the cameras and the flying, lights and just all the crazy things, and a crowd full of people cheering you on. I mean, that kind of validation can do a lot for your spine.
Yeah.
But there's this other part of it which comes from within, which I'm really fascinated by, which is I think that in order for a person to become great, they actually have to embrace the idea that they're great. And it's so much easier to do that when you're being validated by all these things before, as you're coming up in the world, which you can imagine, like younger people coming up and getting validated, how like that's just going to just like affect their growth.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people don't have that, and then they still are sort of saying, still somehow believing in a voice that they have some greatness, but like you're really never going to sort of rip off the Clark Kent suit until you realize, no, I am in my own way fucking great. Like to look in the mirror and be like, that's fucking amazing. And most people are going to miss it. I mean, even the people who get picked on American Voice, they're going to be liked by a slice of the population, but just they happen to have such a broad viewership that the slice is pretty big. But the point is that there's going to be haters. You're going to face lots and lots of haters, and a lot of people aren't going to see what's so great about you. You have to see it first. And I think that what happens when you get validated is that you just have permission. The people that actually make it through those levels is because if you tell somebody they're great and they don't see that they're great themselves, they can't rise up. They can't meet it. They have to have the part of them that knows they're great. That makes that other half of the handshake. Because if not, then they'll just be like,
on The Voice too, there's almost something about people who, the more unlikely the story or the more unlikely the character, the more invested you are, the more bought in you are to the person. So there's a woman who's probably the front runner. She's been from the beginning, and she was a backup singer for years, and she's just next level, 3 levels next singer. So early on, you were real invested in her because she, she's finally getting her shot. She's older than us, and she's finally getting her shot, and she's just unbelievable. But after a few weeks, she's blown everyone out of the water every time, and so she becomes the New York Yankees, and you're much more invested in, or New York Yankees at some points, you're much more invested in the scrappy young people, or the guy who's sort of overweight, or the person who's sort of shy, or the 14-year-old girl who didn't even expect to be there, or the person who, all these stories you get to know after a while, the people who have struggles, those become your favorites. And you're sort of like, yeah, okay, she can sing her butt off. We've seen that. And, it's not that you're not invested in her, but it just becomes, it's interesting how much the inverse is when someone's really, when it's more unlikely, you're just really in their corner.
Well, do you think that those shows, though, in aggregate are, or overall, are encouraging to people who are, nursing a dream, or discouraging?
I don't know about those shows in aggregate at all, because I haven't watched almost any of them. But
or maybe
I've watched
this. What I mean,
I've watched this show in past seasons, and I've watched this show this season, and I would just say this season it's super encouraging. Like I'm not a singer. I've never thought of myself as a singer, but multiple times a day I'll start trying to figure, if I find a song I like, I'll start trying to figure out if that's the song I would use on my voice blind audition.
Nice. It's encouraging. That's good.
It's encouraging for sure, but past seasons of it have not been, and other shows I've seen moments of have not been, but this is just very much all about building people up. There's really no tearing of people down, and you see unlikely heroes at all stages of life and all shapes and sizes who make it through, and just based on their talent. So it's pretty cool.
Good ad for that show.
There you go. You're welcome. Send the check this way, NBC. You jerks.
NBC, huh? How do you even watch NBC?
On an NBC app, of course, on the smart TV. We really should be getting paid for this. NBC, if you pay us, at least 1 or 2 people will see that endorsement.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we
payment in fast food coupons,
vouchers.
We didn't talk about much about the Jeremiah stuff, but maybe that's a show, and we can continue.
Sounds good. Unless you want to do it on air, otherwise we can just say end broadcast.